Having the right to vote means my voice is recognized as valuable in this country.
Having the right to vote means having the opportunity to shape the collective futures of our communities and our country.
Voting means honoring the legacy of my ancestors.
Because I'm the first generation in my family to be eligible to vote, and I think that I can honor and uplift a lot of my community efforts and a lot of things that my community does for this country without any form of representation.
In a couple of weeks, I plan to work the polls in spite of what's going on with COVID, because the right to vote is one of our most precious freedoms.
Being an Asian American woman who votes means putting my voice into politics to stand with those who face intersectional discrimination on gendered and racial levels, and to ensure that we have a wider diversity of candidates who can better represent those that live in our country.
It's comforting to me that my right to vote is concrete proof of decision-making power. I was born in a place where citizens don't vote and where sex was, and still is to an extent, a really strong determinant of worth. So growing up in the US, I've been able to take the 19th Amendment for granted, but it's important to remember that Asian Americans actually weren't granted the right to vote until 1952.
I think as we talk about the 19th Amendment, it is incredibly important to recognize that the movements that allowed for the creation of the 19th Amendment were by and for white women explicitly and purposely excluded a lot of women of color.
Millions of Black women, particularly in the South, were barred from the polls for years, and Native, Latinx, and Asian American women were also disenfranchised. A century later since its passage, women of color still face heavy restrictions on the right to vote. So we must not forget that we have a long way to go.
So it actually wasn't until 1962 that the Pueblo people, so the indigenous population of New Mexico, gained that right, and my great-grandparents were very active in that fight. In fact, when I grew up, my great-grandpa would always tell me that our family inheritance was the right to vote. So as a New Mexican woman, I vote to honor him and to remember him. I vote because I love my state and I love our people and I want us to survive.
Being an Asian American woman who votes means honoring the lives of the women of color who came before me, who did not have that right but who fought hard so that I could enjoy this privilege today. And it means using that privilege to uplift the voices of those still struggling for their right to vote today, those members of our undocumented community, those fighting against voter suppression, and so on. And so it means using my voice, my right to vote, to uplift the voices of those in need.